420 children, that's not a number. That's 420 lives, 420 futures, 420 families who thought they'd never see their child again. Last night, in the largest coordinated rescue operation in American history, federal agents from the FBI, DEA, and Homeland Security stormed 37 locations across 8 states and saved 420 children from a human trafficking network that had been operating for over a decade. The youngest victim was 4 years old. The oldest was 17. Some had been missing for years, some for months, some for just days. Their parents had searched, pleaded, prayed, posted their faces on social media, held vigils, never gave up hope. And last night, that hope became reality. Federal agents didn't just rescue children, they destroyed an empire, a criminal organization that treated human beings like merchandise, that stole innocence, that profited from suffering. 187 arrests, 15 states, one message: we're coming for you, and we won't stop until every child is home. This is the story of Operation Guardian Angel, the 11-month investigation that brought 420 children back from hell. And the federal agents who refused to give up on them. It started with one girl, September 12th, 2024, Phoenix, Arizona. A 14-year-old girl we'll call Maria walked into a convenience store at 2:30 in the morning. She was alone, barefoot, wearing clothes that didn't fit. She approached the clerk and whispered 4 words that would change everything. "Please help me, please." The clerk, a woman named Sandra Martinez, immediately knew something was wrong. This wasn't a runaway asking for change. This was a child in danger. Sandra called 911. Phoenix police arrived within 6 minutes. By the time they got there, Maria was sitting on the floor behind the counter, shaking, unable to make eye contact, flinching every time the door opened. Officers recognized the signs immediately. This wasn't just a missing child. This was a trafficking victim. Maria had been missing for 8 months, taken from a parking lot outside her middle school in Tucson. Her family had filed reports, plastered her face on every social media platform, organized search parties, offered rewards. But Maria hadn't been found because she wasn't lost. She was being held, moved from location to location, sold, exploited, controlled through fear and violence. When Phoenix Police Detective Sarah Chen interviewed Maria at the hospital, the girl revealed something that made every law enforcement officer in that room go silent. She wasn't alone. There were others. Dozens of others. Children being held in houses, hotels, and warehouses across Arizona, some as young as 6 years old. Maria gave Detective Chen names, descriptions, locations she remembered, details about the people who controlled them, how they were transported, where they were kept. That information went immediately to the FBI, and Operation Guardian Angel was born. The FBI doesn't talk about ongoing investigations. They can't. Trafficking networks are sophisticated. They have lookouts. They monitor law enforcement. One leak, one careless word, and everyone disappears. So for 11 months, federal agents worked in complete silence, building a case, identifying victims, tracking locations, mapping the entire network from top to bottom. Special Agent Rebecca Torres led the operation. 15 years with the FBI. Veteran of dozens of trafficking cases. A mother of 2 who understood exactly what was at stake every single day these children remained missing. Her team started with Maria's information and expanded outward like ripples in water. Every detail she provided led to another location, another victim, another piece of the network. They identified safe houses in Phoenix, Tucson, Las Vegas, Los Angeles, Houston, Dallas, Atlanta, and Miami. Properties that looked normal from the outside. Suburban homes, apartment buildings, warehouses, in industrial areas. But inside, children were being held. Some locked in rooms, some threatened with violence if they tried to leave, some convinced their families didn't want them anymore, some too young to even understand what was happening. The FBI deployed surveillance teams, watched the locations 24 hours a day, documented everyone who came and went, license plates, phone numbers, financial transactions. They tapped phones, monitored communications, intercepted messages between traffickers, coordinating movements and transactions. They traced money, bank accounts, wire transfers, cash payments, following the financial trail from street-level enforcers all the way up to the people running the operation. What they discovered was horrifying. This wasn't just a trafficking ring. This was an organization, a business, with recruiters who targeted vulnerable children, transporters who moved them between cities, enforcers who used violence to maintain control, and buyers who paid for access. The network had been operating for at least 12 years. Federal investigators identified over 800 potential victims during that time period. Some had aged out of the system, some had escaped, some had died. But at least 420 were still being held, still waiting for someone to find them. Agent Torres made a decision. They couldn't wait any longer. Every day they delayed was another day those children suffered. It was time to move. December 15th, 2025, 3 a.m. Operation Guardian Angel went operational. Across 8 states, over 600 federal agents, local police officers, and tactical teams simultaneously executed search warrants on 37 locations. In Phoenix, FBI SWAT teams breached 3 residential homes where Maria had said children were being kept. In Las Vegas, DEA agents raided 2 hotel suites and a warehouse. In Los Angeles, a joint task force hit 5 locations within a 15-minute window. In Houston, tactical teams stormed an apartment complex where at least 30 children were believed to be held. In Miami, federal agents executed warrants on a luxury home, 2 condos, and a storage facility, all at the exact same moment, coordinated down to the second, so the network couldn't warn each other, couldn't destroy evidence, couldn't move the children. At one location in Phoenix, agents found 12 children locked in 2 bedrooms, ages 6 to 15, sleeping on mattresses on the floor, no windows, a single bathroom. They'd been there for months. When FBI agents opened the door and identified themselves, the children didn't run toward them. They backed into the corner, terrified, because they'd been told that if they ever tried to leave, if they ever talked to police, something terrible would happen to their families. Agent Torres was there. She knelt down, took off her tactical vest so she'd look less intimidating, and she said the words those children needed to hear. "You're safe now. We're here to take you home. Nobody is going to hurt you anymore." One girl, 9 years old, started crying. Not from fear, from relief. She'd been missing for 14 months. Her mother had never stopped looking, had posted her picture every single day, had organized searches, had called police weekly asking if there were any updates. Tonight, she was going to get the phone call every parent prays for. "Your daughter is alive. We found her. She's coming home." Across all 37 locations, federal agents rescued 420 children that night. 420. The youngest was 4 years old, a little boy who'd been taken from a playground in Dallas. His parents thought he'd wandered off. They'd searched for hours, called police, organized volunteers, checked security cameras. But he hadn't wandered. He'd been taken. And he'd been held for 6 months in a house 20 miles from where he disappeared. When FBI agents found him, he was sleeping in a closet, alone, in the dark. An agent carried him out wrapped in a blanket. He was so small, so quiet, he didn't understand what was happening. But tonight, he was going to sleep in his own bed, with his own parents, safe. The oldest victim was 17, a girl who'd been trafficked for 3 years, moved between cities, told nobody cared about her, convinced there was no way out. When agents told her she was being rescued, she didn't believe them. She thought it was a trick, another way to control her. It took 20 minutes for victim advocates to convince her this was real, that she wasn't in trouble, that she was going to be taken to a hospital, examined, cared for, and eventually reunited with her family. When it finally sank in, when she finally understood that the nightmare was over, she collapsed. 3 years of trauma releasing all at once, but she was alive and she was free. The rescue operation lasted 4 hours, from 3 a.m. to 7 a.m. By sunrise, 420 children were in federal custody, not as suspects, as victims, protected, cared for, safe. They were transported to hospitals and victim advocacy centers where they received medical examinations, trauma counseling, and reunification services. Some had physical injuries, bruises, malnutrition, untreated medical conditions. All had psychological trauma, fear, anxiety, nightmares, the kind of damage that takes years of therapy to heal. But they were alive. and they were getting help. Federal agents also arrested 187 individuals connected to the trafficking network. Recruiters who targeted vulnerable children at schools, parks, and online. Transporters who moved victims between cities in cars, vans, and commercial trucks. Enforcers who used violence and intimidation to maintain control. Facilitators who provided safe houses, fake identification, and money laundering services. And buyers. The people who paid for access to these children, who created the demand that made this evil profitable. Everyone from street-level criminals to wealthy professionals, teachers, businessmen, people with families of their own who somehow convinced themselves that what they were doing was acceptable. They were all arrested, charged with trafficking, kidnapping, conspiracy, and exploitation of minors. If convicted, they're looking at decades in federal prison. Some will die behind bars, and that's exactly what they deserve. The FBI held a press conference at noon. Special Agent Rebecca Torres stood at a podium surrounded by representatives from every agency involved in the operation. She was exhausted. She'd been awake for 36 hours, running on adrenaline and coffee, but she had news that America needed to hear. Early this morning, federal agents executed search warrants across 8 states as part of Operation Guardian Angel, an 11-month investigation into a large-scale human trafficking network. I'm proud to announce that we have successfully rescued 420 children. The room went silent. Reporters stopped typing. Cameras focused. 420 children. These victims range in age from 4 to 17. They were being held in 37 locations across Arizona, Nevada, California, Texas, Georgia, and Florida. Some had been missing for years, some for months. All of them are now safe. Agent Torres paused. Her voice caught slightly. Because this wasn't just statistics. This was 420 lives. We've also arrested 187 individuals connected to this network. They will face federal charges including trafficking, kidnapping, and exploitation of minors. This investigation is ongoing, and we expect additional arrests in the coming weeks. She looked directly into the cameras. To the families of these children, we know you've been waiting, searching, praying. Today, your prayers have been answered. Your children are coming home. Across the country, parents who had been watching the news broke down. Years of anguish, of not knowing, of wondering if they'd ever see their child again. And now, the phone calls were starting. FBI victim advocates reaching out to families, delivering news that seemed impossible. We found your daughter. We found your son. They're alive. They're safe. You can come get them. In Tucson, Arizona, a mother named Elena Ramirez received a call at 1:15 p.m. Her daughter Sophia had been missing for 8 months, taken from a school parking lot the day before her 15th birthday. Elena had done everything. Filed police reports, hired a private investigator, posted on every social media platform, organized search parties, appeared on local news begging for information. She'd never given up hope. But as the months passed, that hope had started to fracture. The statistics aren't kind. The longer a child is missing, the less likely they are to be found alive. But Elena kept searching, kept praying, kept Sophia's room exactly the way she'd left it. When her phone rang that afternoon, she almost didn't answer. She was tired of telemarketers, tired of scammers pretending to have information, tired of disappointment. But something made her pick up. Mrs. Ramirez, this is Agent Sarah Chen with the FBI. I'm calling because we found Sophia. Elena's legs gave out. She dropped to the floor. She's alive. She's safe. And she's asking for you. Elena couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. 8 months of fear releasing in one moment. Where is she? When can I see her? She's at a medical facility in Phoenix, receiving care. You can come see her right now. We'll send a car for you. 2 hours later, Elena walked into a hospital room and saw her daughter for the first time in 8 months. Sophia looked different, thinner, older, the trauma visible in her eyes. But she was alive. Elena ran to her, wrapped her arms around her daughter, and they both cried. The kind of tears that come from surviving something that should have destroyed you. I'm sorry, Mama, Sophia whispered. I'm so sorry. You have nothing to be sorry for. Nothing. You're home now. You're safe. And I'm never letting you go. That scene played out 420 times across America that day. Parents reuniting with children they thought they'd lost forever. In Dallas, a father named Marcus Johnson got the call about his 4-year-old son, Tyler. Marcus had blamed himself every day for 6 months. He'd been at the playground. He'd looked away for 30 seconds to answer a phone call. When he looked back, Tyler was gone. He'd searched, screamed Tyler's name until his voice gave out, called 911, organized volunteers, checked every house in the neighborhood. Police had investigated, reviewed security footage, interviewed everyone who'd been at the park, but there were no leads. Tyler had simply vanished. Marcus hadn't slept through the night since. He'd wake up at 3 a.m. and drive around the city looking for his son, checking playgrounds, parks, anywhere Tyler might be. His wife tried to convince him to accept that Tyler might not be coming back, that they needed to grieve and move forward. But Marcus refused. Tyler was out there, and Marcus would find him. When the FBI called, Marcus was at work. He'd been forcing himself to go to work because they needed the money, because sitting at home drove him insane. Mr. Johnson, this is Special Agent David Martinez with the FBI. We've located your son, Tyler. He's safe. Marcus dropped his phone. His coworkers found him on his knees in the hallway, sobbing. That afternoon, Marcus walked into a hospital room and saw Tyler sitting on a bed, holding a stuffed animal one of the nurses had given him. Tyler looked up, saw his father, and said the two words Marcus had been desperate to hear. "Hi, Daddy." Marcus picked up his son and held him, and he didn't let go for an hour. Tyler was home. After 6 months in hell, that little boy was home. Not every reunion was immediate. Some children needed medical care, psychological evaluation, time to process what had happened. Some were so traumatized they didn't remember their families. The youngest victims, taken as toddlers, had no memory of life before. Some needed intensive therapy before they could even begin to talk about what they'd experienced. But every single one of those 420 children now had something they didn't have 24 hours ago. Hope, safety, a future. Federal victim advocates worked with each child individually, connecting them with counseling services, medical care, legal assistance, educational support, because rescue is just the first step. Recovery takes years. Many of these children will struggle with PTSD, anxiety, depression, trust issues, attachment disorders. Some will need residential treatment, long-term therapy, specialized education programs. The FBI has committed to providing support for as long as these victims need it. Not just for months, for years, for decades, if necessary. Because these children didn't just survive, they're going to heal, they're going to thrive, they're going to reclaim the lives that were stolen from them. The investigation into the trafficking network is ongoing. The 187 arrested individuals are facing federal prosecution. The U.S. Attorney's Office has filed charges that carry sentences ranging from 15 years to life in prison. Some defendants are cooperating, providing information about the network's leadership, financial operations, international connections. Because this network didn't just operate in the United States. It had ties to trafficking organizations in Mexico, Central America, and Southeast Asia. Federal investigators are working with international law enforcement to dismantle the entire operation, not just in America, globally. They've seized assets, bank accounts, properties, vehicles, millions of dollars that were generated through the exploitation of children. All of it will be forfeited, used to fund victim services, to support the children whose lives were destroyed by this evil. The FBI is also investigating everyone who created demand, the buyers, the people who paid for access to these children. Some are already under arrest. Others are being identified through financial records, communications, and witness testimony. This investigation won't end until every single person involved is held accountable. Operation Guardian Angel is being called the largest child rescue operation in American history. 420 children saved in a single coordinated operation. But federal agents know this is just one network, one operation, one victory in a war that's far from over. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children estimates that hundreds of thousands of children are trafficked in the United States every year. Some are kidnapped. Some are lured through false promises. Some are sold by people they trust. Many are runaways who become targets because they're vulnerable and have nowhere to go. Traffickers exploit poverty, addiction, family dysfunction. They target children who feel invisible, unwanted, desperate for someone to care about them. And they turn that desperation into profit. The FBI, DEA, and Homeland Security are committed to fighting this. Operation Guardian Angel is just the beginning. Across the country, federal task forces are working to identify trafficking networks, rescue victims, prosecute offenders. Technology companies are being pressured to do more to prevent trafficking activity on their platforms. Schools are implementing education programs to teach children how to recognize and avoid trafficking situations. Communities are organizing awareness campaigns to help people identify the signs of trafficking, because this isn't just a law enforcement problem. This is a societal problem, and it requires everyone to be vigilant. If you see something suspicious, report it. If a child seems afraid, isolated, or controlled, speak up. If you notice someone being exploited, call the National Human Trafficking Hotline. Every report matters. Every tip could save a life. Special Agent Rebecca Torres gave one final statement at the press conference. She looked exhausted, emotionally drained, but also relieved. To the 420 children we rescued, I want you to know something. What happened to you was not your fault. You did nothing wrong. You are not damaged. You are not broken. You are survivors. And you have an entire country standing behind you, supporting you, believing in you. The people who hurt you will face justice. We will make sure of that. But you don't have to carry that burden. Your only job now is to heal, to recover, to reclaim your life. And to the parents, I want you to know that we see you. We know you never stopped searching. We know you never gave up hope. Your children are coming home because you refuse to stop fighting for them. Agent Torres paused, took a breath. This operation represents 11 months of work by hundreds of dedicated agents, officers, and advocates. But it also represents something bigger. It represents our commitment as a nation to protect our most vulnerable, to fight for those who can't fight for themselves, to never give up on children in danger. 420 children are safe tonight because people cared enough to act, because someone saw something and said something, because law enforcement refused to quit. And we won't quit, not as long as there's a single child out there who needs us. The room erupted in applause, not for the FBI, for those 420 children who survived something unimaginable and came out the other side. In Phoenix, Maria, the 14-year-old girl who walked into that convenience store 8 months ago and asked for help, was reunited with her family. Her mother, her father, her younger brother, they'd been living in agony since the day she disappeared, blaming themselves, wondering what they could have done differently. When Maria walked through the door of her house, her little brother ran to her and hugged her so tight she could barely breathe. "You came back," he said. "I knew you'd come back." Maria's mother couldn't stop crying, couldn't stop touching her daughter's face, her hair, her hands, making sure she was real. "I'm so sorry, baby. I'm so sorry we couldn't find you." "It's okay, Mama. I'm home now." Maria looked around her house, her room, the life she'd been ripped away from. It felt like a dream, like any second she'd wake up and be back in that locked room, back in the nightmare. But she wasn't. This was real. She was home, she was safe, and the people who took her were in handcuffs, facing justice. Maria's story isn't over. She has years of therapy ahead, trauma to process, memories to work through. But she's gonna make it, because she's strong, because she survived, because she had the courage to ask for help, and because 419 other children survived with her. Tonight, across America, 420 children are sleeping in safe beds. Some in their own homes, some in hospitals, some in foster care while family situations are sorted out. But all of them are safe, protected, cared for. Their nightmares aren't over. The healing process will take years. Some will struggle for the rest of their lives with what was done to them. But they're alive, they're free, and they have a future. That's what Operation Guardian Angel gave them. A chance. Share the story. Talk about it. Make sure people know